Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Gonna Falls, Gonna What Ifs, whatever you want to call me. And I am back. This is a brand new What If. What if Tanjiro was a mage? And if you enjoy, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Sorry I haven't been as consistent as I want to be. I know I haven't missed like a ton of days or anything, but obviously I wanted to be daily and stuff like that. I've definitely, jumped away from a couple days. Maybe I went like every other day, here and there. But hopefully you guys are still enjoying the content nonetheless. And I'll try my best to keep up with the content. I got to figure out what I want to do as well with the content. I haven't 100% like decided on where I'm going to stay, what I'm going to be doing. Maybe I'll start doing more animes. Maybe I'll start doing a couple extra other things I want to get into. But we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens, and we'll see. I'd love to see what you guys have suggestions in the comment section below as well. But with that said, I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into the what if. So let's get it. Tanjiro being a mage in the world of Demon Slayer changes things quite a bit, at least in terms of the storyline itself. Now, early on when he's younger, he's not like some insanely powerful mage or anything like that to a large extent, but he does have, simple magic-based powers that he has learned throughout his life and his adolescence. And as he grows up, he does learn a couple things, couple basic spells, couple basic ideas, maybe like a simple healing spell, something that is like a small little fire wisp of some sorts that can light things on fire and stuff like that. But it really isn't that crazy, like genuinely isn't that insane in terms of how powerful his legitimate powers are as a mage. But even with that said, he still is able to essentially do a couple extra things right here and there. Now, with that said, he does go through life pretty normally. He learns things, as he progresses and stuff along those lines. And eventually he gets to the end where he sees his family unfortunately pass to the afterlife. Now, he obviously tries everything to keep any of them alive, or tries to do something, but he noticed that all of them have no pulse, except for his sister Nezuko. So he tries to start healing Nezuko, trying to use anything in his ability to heal her. Doing everything he can, but she's not waking up. So he picks her up and begins running, just like how he normally does. They crash onto the ground, crashing into the snow, and Giyu Tomioka would show up and separate him and Nezuko. But this time around, when Nezuko would wake up, she would not be aggressive. She would not attack. She wouldn't even attack Tanjiro at all, even though Tanjiro is bleeding. In which this would shock Giyu. Giyu's like, I don't get it. How is this happening? In which Tanjiro walks over to his sister, but Giyu telling him, don't do that. Like, we don't know what's going on. But Nezuko just runs over to him and just hugs him and just passes out onto the ground. In which Tanjiro tells him that this is his sister Nezuko, and he doesn't know what happened. He has no idea what's occurring, and he doesn't know how she became a demon, but she does know his sister is a good person, and his sister, is actually is genuinely a good person. And of course he's like, okay, like I see what you're saying, right? I see what's going on, and I see what's happening, and this is what I'm gonna do. And he basically tells him, like, what we're gonna do is we're going to send you to some place that I know that is basically going to allow you to get trained by someone by the name of Urokodaki. And when he sends him over there, he essentially tells him, like, before he sends him over there, he's like, he's going to teach you the ways of being a demon slayer, and he's going to teach you as much as he possibly can, and make sure to keep your sister in Ai's view, and make sure that she always stays safe. He gets sent off with Nezuko, and the whole thing of getting her in some sort of a box or something like that, right, would happen, and basically all that would ensue, where he would essentially get to Urokodaki, and then they would essentially begin training. Now, before the training would begin, though, he would face off with a temple demon, but this demon is pretty weak in terms of, comparison of future demons he will face off with. The demon himself is actually overwhelmed because he's wondering how this demon is protecting a human, but also how Tanjiro is utilizing seemingly magic to actually fend off against him. And Urokodaki would see this and believe that Tanjiro's magic, whatever mage-like powers and abilities he has, will be a big reason for their, eventual living throughout everything, right? Them living throughout this demon, all these demons and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's definitely going to be the case, because Tanjiro begins training, he begins preparing, he begins doing everything he possibly can to try and kind of get himself to be stronger, to level up, and do as much as he possibly can, just in general. And that's exactly what he does, right? That's exactly what he gets into. He's able to level up to that degree, level up to a way higher degree than he would have in the first place. And the reason for it is just his little bits of spells. Now, in terms of water breathing, he learns the entirety of water breathing, trains with Sabito and Makomo, or the spirits of them, and actually is able to inflict his own sword with like water-like capabilities. Now, it's nothing crazy, like it's just maybe like a simple effect, you could say, right? That he has a water-like effect on his sword to an extent, but the main thing that he basically is able to do is also make his training a lot better, allowing himself to kind of heal himself and, restore some stamina. Nothing insane, nothing crazy. These spells are very like minuscule to a large extent, but he's still able to utilize them, and he's able to actually use them so that he can get even greater training than normal, essentially making him way stronger than he normally would have been in the original version of Demon Slayer, leading him to obviously slicing the boulder and then entering the final selection. And the final selection would go way better than normal. I mean, I'm not going to say that he's going to be able to end every demon, and keep everybody safe at all times and, no matter what, because that's just not true. He won't be able to do that. But he is able to slay a ton, if not most of the demons, and also leading him to also saving quite a few different people. And the way he's able to save these people is via actually healing them and keeping them alive here and there. Because at the end of the day, he's still able to heal and restore people to a small extent. And yeah, it's not like the most potent and powerful thing in the world, but it's just enough so that they can actually live through this kind of, entire thing, right? Because that's the main thing, surviving the forest. Like, that is the big thing for a lot of them, is genuinely surviving the forest. And that is what they're trying to do, and he's able to survive it to an extent, right? They're able to all survive it to a large extent, and that is definitely the end goal, and definitely something that a lot of people were hoping for, and a lot of these future Demon Slayers were hoping for as well, because nobody wants to, kick the bucket at the end of the day, right? So nobody wants to do that. So obviously people are very, very happy that they, don't kick the bucket and have an unfortunate demise. Now, with that said, they finish the final selection. He heads back to Urokodaki with his Nichirin ore. They eventually get the Nichirin blade, and when he gets the blade, it is still the same black blade he normally gets, and his Nichirin color it turns into, right? It's still the same black blade. But the difference here is when he inflicts it with this water-like effect or water-like ability, it actually changes the style of the black blade itself. Not changing the darkness and the black of the blade, but adding a little bit more details with this like stream of water to an extent. and he wonders if he inflicts it with fire, something that he's able to do, like, you know, he can't just throw a fireball at somebody, but he can do like very small things. He might be able to have an even greater effect as well, in which he does try to do that too, inflicting this fire on his sword, and his entire sword would actually turn red. And as this happens, Urokodaki's in shock. I mean, they're like, what just happened? How did this happen? And what's even going on? They don't have the answers, like, at all, but they do know something happened for the benefit of Tanjiro. And Urokodaki tells him, continue experimenting with your abilities, because it might just allow, you know, them to really open up a new world of a way to actually defeat the demons themselves, in which obviously Tanjiro is definitely going to listen. Like, he's like, you got it. Like, I'm going to make sure to do that. I'm not going to slack. I'm gonna make sure to you know, keep up with my abilities, keep up with my training, and keep up with everything that I need to make sure to stick with, because at the end of the day, you don't want to slack with abilities like this, because you have, you know, the potential beyond, like, you know, comprehension here, because of what you have been showing. And Tanjiro is going to keep showing this ability as much as he possibly can, leading him to his first mission against the Swamp Demon. And frankly, the Swamp Demon, he doesn't stand a chance. Not only is Tanjiro a stronger version of himself because of the more efficient training, but on top of that, I mean, his sword striking ability with the fire in his fire-infused blade, it makes for every strike to be way more potent. And when he cuts off the demon's arm, just doing something basic like that, the fire spreads to his entire body. And it seems that the fire may be weak, but adding it to the Nichiren blade makes it way more potent, in which it surprises Tanjiro. It seems like he definitely, you know, becomes a stronger mage when he has some sort of item to kind of channel his abilities through. And this would shock Tanjiro, but it would make a ton of sense, like a ton of sense in general, for Tanjiro to really break down. He understands now that, oh, okay, so like, you're telling me that if I, you know, focus my powers through this sword, and I do this and I do that, it could actually allow me to essentially, like, you know, do something even greater than normal. And he starts understanding this and starts really putting this into action as much as he possibly can, because at the end of the day, this right here is his opportunity to grow stronger and grow more prepared than he ever has in the first place. And that right there is something that Tanjiro is making sure to get down. And that right there is something that Tanjiro is making sure that he has, you know, his head on correctly with, because he continues to kind of build that power through his mage-like abilities. Now, eventually he does face off with Muzan here at the city that never sleeps, but it's not much of a fight. I mean, Tanjiro's not going to fight Muzan right here and right now. It's kind of a stupid thing if he tries to do so. So he doesn't, right? He doesn't fight Muzan. He lets him go, obviously, not like he could have done much about it, leading him to eventually meeting with Leda Tamayao and Yushiro, where they talk about various things. Tanjiro talks about his abilities as basically a mage, and they kind of talk about that Tanjiro might be a big component about turning his sister back into a human, in which if they figure that out, Tanjiro could do something greater than anyone has ever before. They tell Tanjiro that he should focus on these mage powers as much as he possibly can, but Tanjiro tells him that surviving and living is something that he wants for himself as well, and just focusing on his mage powers will not allow him to, you know, be able to kind of keep up with himself and not allow himself to get hurt or, you know, killed, and for him to protect his sister, in which they say, like, or Lei Tamayao says, like, she understands. She 100% gets where he's coming from, because in terms of the right now, yeah, he needs it. He needs the power. He needs the ability to protect his loved one, and he needs the ability to also protect himself. But at the same time, if he wants something, Like, he wants something better, and he wants to truly, like, essentially, you know, have something even greater in the near future and have a greater potential. Focusing on these mage powers and these kind of spells and so on and so forth will allow him to get that to a certain point, in which he nods his head and says he'll do his absolute best to learn more about it, but other than that, that's all he can really, you know, say, that he's going to do his best in regards of actually trying to maintain, right, this power and make sure this power is cultivated to its utmost degree. And eventually, before a response could come out of Lady Tamayao, the place would be attacked. The place would be attacked very swiftly, and Tanjiro would protect, you know, all of them there as quickly as he possibly can, and obviously would face off with the arrival of Susumaru and Yahaba. But this fight in itself is not necessarily a difficult one. Tanjiro is outclassing them by a large margin, and his ability to inflict his sword as kind of like his big components of getting even more power is allowing him to just overwhelm them so easily. Even overwhelming them easily involving, like, you know, long-ranged attacks, sending fire and water in their direction, and overwhelming them with powers that they would not have expected in the first place and would never have known existed ever in their lives, even in their demon lives, where they have lived for a pretty damn long time. Now, with that said, though, they are defeated swiftly by Tanjiro Kamado, and Tanjiro gets more information about this idea of a cure for his sister needing the blood of the 12 Kizuki, which Tanjiro would listen closely to this, but also keeping in mind the fact that Lady Tamayao did say that he might be able to cure his sister with his mage powers itself if he just trains and powers himself up enough to do so. But eventually he would head to his next mission, meeting Zenitsu and going to a nearby mansion to save the brother of two little kids. And when they get there, Tanjiro is split up from Zenitsu and forced to face Kyogai, a former member of the 12 Kizuki, by himself. But even with him being by himself, it doesn't change the fact that Kyogai has no idea what Tanjiro is truly capable of. And when Tanjiro starts utilizing a fire-infused sword and begins dashing at Kyogai utilizing water-breathing techniques, Kyogai is overwhelmed by the speed that is being portrayed. Not only is Tanjiro able to infuse his sword, but his speed is so much greater because of the more potent training he was able to get into and just better acquaintance with his blade as well. And Kyogai would fall very, very quickly, just as Inosuke would come barreling through the top of the roof, wondering where that demon is. Tanjiro saying that he already defeated him, and Inosuke says, well, if he defeated one, he's gonna have to defeat two, so he runs off to find the others so that he can defeat the other demons that are in the in the mansion to one-up Tanjiro. But eventually they do head outside, and Tanjiro meets with Zenitsu and Inosuke once again, where Inosuke is attacking basically the box of Nezuko. But Tanjiro, well, he immediately shuts it down and even like smacks Inosuke in the face with multiple like elemental like abilities that he has, shocking him a little bit, also, you know, throwing water or even lighting him on fire just a little bit to slow him / stop him from doing what he's trying to do, and really halting him in his tracks. And eventually Inosuke would listen and stop, you know, trying to continuously attack Tanjiro's sister, aka Nezuko, over and over and over again. So luckily enough, they stop it, or, you know, it's stopped in general, and we get, you know, the obvious moment of not having to deal with the fact that, you know, Inosuke is trying to legitimately kill Tanjiro's sister. Now, luckily enough, that is all halted, that is all stopped, so none of that is needed to you know, be worried about anymore, at least for the moment. Excuse me. And this would lead to obviously Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu meeting or teaming up and going to a nearby house to get a little bit of rest before their next mission, which would be out at Mount Natagumo. And when he gets to Mount Natagumo, or when they get to Mount Natagumo, luckily enough, Tanjiro is quite a bit more prepared in this situation, being able to save a lot of these Demon Slayer puppets because he's able to legitimately burn up the actual strings and the spiders that are reattaching them pretty quickly, utilizing his, mage-like abilities. On top of that, he's able to burn off the strings of the Mother Spider Demon's doll, and then eventually he faces off with the Mother Spider Demon, giving her a peaceful end. But also at the same time, he knows that there are going to be other demons within this forest that are more powerful possibly than her, but also don't have the kind of moral kind of judgment that she did as well, believing that she deserved or wanted to die in the first place or go to the afterlife in the first place. These others, they're probably not going to feel the same, and they're going to have, their wants and desires on the forefront to not allow him to send them to the afterlife. And Tanjiro, obviously, he's not having it. He's going to do what he has to do, and he's going to make sure that it gets done properly. And yeah, that is what Tanjiro ends up pushing towards. And Tanjiro faces off with the Father Spider Demon, in which initially is going extremely well, heavily in the favor of Tanjiro and Inosuke, but with one slip up sends Tanjiro flying to a different location where he sees Rui berating the daughter Spider Demon, or his quote-unquote sister, and Tanjiro tells Rui that treating family like that is beyond disgusting and beyond horrible, and Tanjiro would begin fighting Rui with everything he has. Infusing his sword with fire as well allows him to essentially put Rui at such a massive disadvantage, especially when Tanjiro eventually figures out how to utilize the Hinokami Kagura. And once he starts awakening himself even further, Rui's unable to keep up with Tanjiro by any means. Like, he can't keep up with him at all. And of course, Rui is pretty damn pissed during this entire sequence, really thinking and thinking to himself in general, like, what is this guy? What is he? I've never seen someone who is human be able to use something so similar to a blood demon art. And obviously, Tanjiro's not using a blood demon art, but Rui can't even wrap his head around it. He's unable to really understand and think and figure things out, and he just has no idea what exactly is going on, at least during this moment, and not really understanding in general. And eventually, Rui would be defeated, getting his neck sliced off and being defeated right here and right now via Tanjiro, who actually opens or gives himself an opening as well by literally slicing towards Rui at the same time as inflicting some sort of elemental like spell towards the legs of him, which would shock Rui, thinking to himself that he doesn't understand how any of this is happening and doesn't understand how it's, how he's doing it, but somehow he is doing this, but he doesn't get it. How is this kid doing this? How is he utilizing such methods? How is he utilizing these such abilities? I don't understand. In which Rui would eventually be defeated, and he obviously would, be killed and sent to the afterlife. And there's no doubt that Tanjiro definitely finds his way in defeating him just like that, and finishes the job before you know it, and would obviously be looked at in a pretty high regard by Gyu. Gyu would look at this and be like, you did this? Like, you were able to defeat him? Like, that's pretty damn impressive to an extent. And yeah, he wouldn't say this outright to him, but he would still be impressed, leading to the both of them getting into a bit of a scuffle over Nezuko, not Giyu and Tanjiro, but them together, like protecting Nezuko. And eventually he would be sent off to the Hashira mansion, or the headquarters for the Demon Slayers. And when they're all speaking and all trying to figure things out, the Hashira are mainly against the idea of Nezuko being a Demon Slayer, or at least being a part of the Demon Slayer Corp. And it leads to Nezuko proving everybody wrong, Tanjiro fighting for his sister, and eventually Ubuyashiki declaring that basically, or Kodaki says that he would give his life if Nezuko ended up hurting a human. And luckily enough, that shouldn't happen, leading to Tanjiro training at the Butterfly Mansion for his rehabilitation training and going through absolute hell to get more powerful and get stronger. But one thing he is focusing on as well is his mage-like abilities. These abilities seemingly are getting stronger at a rapid pace, to the point that he's now realizing why Lady Tamiya was speaking so highly of these potential abilities having such an effect on curing a demon. And that right there is something that Tanjiro basically is thinking about the entire time. The idea that he might have the ability, the power to actually stop, or actually change and turn a demon back into a human, or at least give them a chance to kind of slow down the abilities that demons have, with counteracting it with some sort of spell. And Tanjiro, he focuses on this like a madman. Yeah, he does as much as he possibly can to figure it out. And at the end of the day, he doesn't even actually go to the Mugen Train, believing that this is something he needs to focus on, focusing heavily on it. And Rengoku, well, defeating Enmu, or figuring a way to do so, isn't ended by Akaza, because Akaza never shows up at the Mugen Train. And at the end of the day, it seems like Tanjiro is really putting a major focus on his abilities as a mage. Even if his main weapon to kind of push the abilities outward from is a legitimate sword, he knows that it really matters for him to learn as much as he possibly can and figure out what his mage-like abilities are truly capable of. And that right there is something that Tanjiro really puts into work as much as he possibly can, even helping Shinobu give her an even more potent version of her poison for her weapon, inflicting a poison on her blade that seems to make the poison way more powerful than she would ever have expected. Because on the next mission she goes on, she sees the way the effect, or the spell that was casted, affects her sword, and the poison that is being implanted onto every demon, if not, whatever demon that is struck. And she's in shock, thinking that this kid, whatever he did, he needs to focus on this, because whatever he's doing, whatever power he's capable of, he can do something that nobody else out of all the demon slayers will be ever able to do. And Tanjiro initially is about to actually go on a mission with Tengen, with obviously with Tengen, with Inosuke and Zenitsu, and they're about to go on that mission. But of course, Shinobu, is basically telling him, no, you're not sending him or going on this mission. You need to focus on this. And also tells him that whatever he can do to help them on the mission without going, he should be doing at all times. So Tanjiro thinks about what she said, and he inflicts spells on all of their swords and all of their weapons. Inosuke's weapon, Zenitsu's weapon, and also Tengen's weapon, allowing them to be a lot more powerful, right, in this moment than they ever would have been in the original moment as well. And Tanjiro is basically told by Shinobu that they're going to be working together closely to amplify these mage-like abilities and his spells as much as they possibly can, because these abilities will be the key to defeating Muzan and be the key to curing his sister. And that's exactly what they work on. They work on this together, eventually even meet up with like Tameo to work on this as well. And Tanjiro, he isn't really going out and about to his normal Demon Slayer duties, but he is making other Demon Slayers and other potential people that, you know, are going to need help a lot stronger as well, leading to quite a few Demon Slayers and like the floor of the Demon Slayer Corp to be raised quite a bit because of Tanjiro's capabilities. And on top of that, when he starts working with Shinobu, making basically big strides with Lady Tameo in this cure, they're able to actually learn of the cure a lot sooner than they expected, and they actually figure it out at the same time that Tanjiro is at the Swordsmith's village trying to learn more about potential kind of possibilities he could utilize with his sword and spells combined. But what he didn't know is that demons would show up, Hontengu and Gyoko specifically, and Tanjiro would be forced to fight, but helping his comrades, basically his teammates, helping them as well, inflicting Genya's bullets with spells as well, spells that would help it massively. Same thing with Mitsuri and her blade, and obviously fighting alongside Nezuko. He's giving it his absolute all, doing everything he possibly can to keep up with Hontengu, and it's helpful. It definitely is. It's still a difficult fight, easier than normal, but he personally isn't the one that is evolving to its highest degree, even with his usage of the Hinokami Kagura. And before you know it, Tanjiro does help in the defeat of Hontengu and in the help of defeat of Gyoko, because Tanjiro basically made the sword of Muchiro, even more powerful, making it so it's a lot easier for them to defeat these demons, but there is no awakening of the Demon Slayer mark for anybody else here. But Tanjiro can make up for that, as basically it is shown throughout this time. But Tanjiro not only is basically seeing all this transpire, he also sees his sister Nezuko conquer the sun, and Tanjiro realizes that this is about the time to cure his sister. And during this Hashira training arc, yeah, he's working tirelessly, like without any doubt, to try to get better, stronger, and his abilities as a mage to inflict more and more upon anybody and everyone. But on top of that, he's working on the cure for Nezuko, and eventually, towards the end of the training, he's able to cure his sister with his own hands, inflicting a spell that combines everything, science and magic, together to cure his sister. And when they do this, they look at Tanjiro, Shinobu, and Lady Tameo, and they tell him that this is how they'll defeat Muzan, with a spell. In which he's in shock to hear this, because obviously this is potentially a way to do it, but how do they know it's going to work? In which they say they don't know, but there are ways that things they can do to guarantee that it does. In which Tanjiro listens closely, and he listens to the plan, and he feels like this plan might be the best way and most crucial way that they can really approach things to defeat Muzan. And eventually that plan would go into fruition when Ubuyashiki's mansion would blow up into smithereens, and Tanjiro and all the other Demon Slayers would face off with Muzan for the very last time. Facing off with Muzan here, Tanjiro sees Lady Tameo get basically absorbed into Muzan, but with all of basically the cure and poison being inflicted within him. And Tanjiro, he throws his blade directly towards Muzan, and Muzan's confused. What is he doing? As the blade would basically miss Muzan and just go right next to Muzan, Tanjiro would then inflict his own blade with as much as he possibly can, close enough to Muzan to inflict him and tether Muzan where he stands. As he tethers Muzan, he begins to inflict Muzan with this kind of healing based magic that reverts everything, that reverts his demonhood and slowly but surely changes him into a far weaker version of himself. Tanjiro does this with all his power, inflicting Muzan to its highest degree. But before he did this, he also granted so many demon slayers, Hashira alike, many other just even regular demon slayers as well, powers and these magical spells that should help them in every single fight that is down in the Infinity Castle. But Tanjiro's focus now is to inflict Muzan with as much power as he can, draining him of his ability as a demon, and eventually holding him till the sun would rise. And Tanjiro Kamado, well, he would be laughed at by Muzan initially, but when Muzan realizes that he is already 25% weaker than he should be, he starts realizing that Tanjiro is not joking around. Gyome would come out of nowhere and even hit Muzan straight in the face with his weapon, and Muzan would have basically no way of preventing himself any injury. Tanjiro slowing down his regeneration and also making it so that he's reverting back to what he once was, a person that was dying, a person that was struggling, and a person that was on death's door. And Tanjiro is changing Muzan forever, and before you know it, he is having such an effect that Muzan can't even resist and can't even fight back, leading to the eventual rise of the sun. And Tanjiro Kamado, he doesn't even know what's happening below within the Infinity Castle, but all he can do is hope that the other demon slayers and Hashira are having basically their way with the demons, and hoping that they are actually defeating those said demons. And he awaits the sun to rise, and when it does and Muzan is defeated, Tanjiro collapses to the ground, barely even breathing, gasping for air, and he awaits the arrival of the other demon slayers. And he sits up just enough to see so many of them, so many Hashira and so many demon slayers still alive. But Tanjiro, he lays there almost lifeless. He can barely breathe, he can barely feel his entire body, because all of that power, everything that was spread thin around him to all the demon slayers, Hashira, and even on top of Muzan, he realizes that it has basically made him far weaker than he's ever felt in his life, and he would pass out. And a lot of them would wonder if Tanjiro Kamado just gave his life to stop the demons and stop them for good. But luckily enough, after months of waiting, Tanjiro would awaken, and everybody who has been waiting for his eventual arrival and his return couldn't be happier than ever seen before. And that right there is going to be the end of What If Tanjiro Was a Mage. And if you enjoyed, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.